What's up, guys? Seb here, and I'm here to do my first ever movie review. I was very lucky to see Shin Godzilla, or Godzilla Resurgence as is known here in the States, in theaters on Sunday. So now I am going to be doing a review of that film. And if you saw my Godzilla Reacts trailer, or my reaction to the Godzilla trailer that I did a few months ago, you would know that I was really excited for this film. Super excited. So basically how this review is going to be broken down is that I'm going to kind of give a non-spoilery, discussion about what my thoughts are. Did I like the movie? Did I not like the movie? Why and why not? The plot, and if I think people should go and see it. That's going to be the non-spoilery part that you guys can use to go determine if you want to go see the movie or not. That's all on you. There's a lot of YouTubers out there who are doing it. There's a lot of reviews for this movie out there, so you can kind of become an informed consumer and get as much information as you want or can. And then after that, I'm going to be doing like this, or I'll say it, and then we will be entering spoiler mode, where I will be basically ranting about various things in the film that I didn't like and I did like, and going into way more detail about the plot and certain scenes and interactions between the characters and stuff like that. So the first 5-10 minutes of this video is going to be non-spoilers, very concise review, and then after that is going to be ranting and raving and talking about nerdy shit. So, you know, you're warned. All right, so at the beginning, did I like this movie? No, I did not like this movie. I left that theater very disappointed. Very disappointed. I was very excited because it was the first time in 12 years that Toho has made a Godzilla film, and the 2014 Godzilla film, the American one, did very well by a lot of people's standards, and this sparked Toho making this one, and the 2014 Godzilla film was better than this, was much better than this, in my opinion. If the 2014 Godzilla film was your first Godzilla film, stick with that one. Don't watch Resurgence. Don't watch Shin Godzilla. In fact, go back and watch some of the original stuff. Don't watch this one. Don't watch this one. But if you are a fan of Godzilla, go see it, just because I know right now it's doing so well here in the West that they're extending the limited release. So you have more chances to go see it. If you are a Godzilla fan, go and support Toho, so that way they go make another one, hopefully a better one. I mean, not every Godzilla film is gold. I mean, Son of Godzilla, Godzilla's Revenge, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, those are all like trash films. But I still own them because I'm a Godzilla fan, and so, you know, go see it that way. Now, basically, the plot of the film is that the film is basically about Godzilla is a natural disaster, and it's about Japan's government being unable to efficiently handle him or any disaster. There's a lot of parts in this film where the government has to go through 5-6 steps, has to talk through to 10 different people just to get one thing going. And so the plot of this film is basically Godzilla arrives, and it's about how the government handles him poorly, and how it takes an individual within the government and also an individual within the U.S. government to team up and kind of break the rules a little bit, become a little bit of a rebel in order to save the country. That's basically the plot in the most basic sense. Like I said, I'm going to get into spoiler stuff later on in the video, but that's basically that. Should you go see the movie? Well, I kind of already answered that. If you're a Godzilla fan, you should go see the movie, just so that way you can support Toho. Also, this is my opinion. Be an informed consumer. Go out there, read the reviews. I know for a fact that it's got an 82 or something like that on Rotten Tomato. It's getting like low 80s in a lot of other critics and review sites. So I must be a minority in not liking the film. So if you're a fan of Godzilla, go see it, because you might have a very different opinion from me. You might really enjoy this film. If you're not a Godzilla fan, I say personally save your money. I went with my girlfriend on Sunday, and she fell asleep like twice. It's not a very action-packed movie. Actually, again, I'm going to compare it to 2014 just because it was most recent. There was more action in 2014 than there was in Shin Godzilla. A lot more. And so, unless you're one of those people who likes slow, intellectual, a lot of dialogue films, I would say save your money. But if you're a Godzilla fan, go see it just because. It's a Godzilla movie. And I know for a fact that when it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, I'm going to buy it just because I want to have every one of the Godzilla films. And that's just the point. Like, if you're a fan, you want it even if it sucks. It's the same thing with, like, people who are fans of sports teams. Like, yeah, you true fans of sports teams. Like, you sit with them through the worst of it all, and then when they finally win, it's like... So, as much as I bitch and moan about this movie, I'm happy it's out. I'm happy it's doing well. I just hope that in the coming years when Toho makes another one, if they make another one, you better make another one, Toho. If they make another one, it better be better than this. That's all I'm saying. All right, so now spoiler section. We're going to start talking about a little bit more in-depth plot stuff that I didn't like, which is a long rant, and stuff that I did like, which is a shorter rant. But yeah, so we're going to start off with the stuff I didn't like. I'm going to talk about specific scenes. I'm going to talk about specific parts of the movie. And then I'm going to end with the stuff that I did like, again, talking about specifics. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled, this is where to pause the video, go see the movie, and come back and then watch the rest. If you don't give a shit, just keep watching the movie, or the show, or the video. I appreciate it. Thank you for keep watching. Okay, so we're going to start with the big one. I'm going to do the likes and dislikes of what Godzilla looks like. So for those who don't know, Godzilla has, and if you're still watching the show or the video, you were foregoing the spoilers, Godzilla has multiple forms in this film. And by multiple, I mean he has like three or four. You don't see him in the beginning. You don't see him very much. I mean, in the beginning, you don't see him really. That's actually the wrong way to say it, because you see him pretty much from the very beginning. But you see parts of him, like you see his tail, and you see like his dorsal spines, kind of like in the water, and then stuff like that. And then he gets on land. I mean, I have to say, as far as the Godzilla film, you see Godzilla pretty early, like within the first 20 minutes, Godzilla. You see Godzilla like almost completely. So, and he's destroying stuff already. So that, as far as the Godzilla film, you see him fairly quickly. But when you don't see him when he's in the water. You see him when he starts coming up a river into Tokyo, and you can tell that he's not really all there. He's not what you've seen in the trailer at all. He's sort of hunched over. You just see kind of his legs and his butt and his tail wagging behind him. Like he's like twerking in the water. Like he's pushing all these boats and stuff like that aside. He's basically just bulldozing his way through. And then you don't really see his head or anything like that. You just kind of see his back and his like thighs and his tail. And then he comes on land, and my God, is he stupid. He's so stupid looking. Like, I can't even imagine why people thought this was a good idea to make him look this way. He looks like a chihuahua. Like, in my opinion, he looks like a chihuahua that is missing his two front paws but doesn't have a wheelchair or anything. So he's kind of like walking around like this. His head's all the way down. His butt's all the way up. Oh my God, am I going bald? He's twerking. He's like just shimmying along. And he's just like I said, he's just bulldozing things out of his way. Like there's a scene where there's everyone's gotten out of their cars because everyone's like, you have to evacuate. And so there's all these parked cars, and he's literally just going like, pushing all these cars out of the way. Like this is not Godzilla. Like, it's not. Like, I would rather take Godzilla looking like he did in 1998 than him looking like this. Like, this is like, in my opinion, for what he stands for and what he is a disgrace. Like, he has these big, like, pug, like, Frenchie Bulldog pop-out eyes. He's goofy looking. Some people trying to, like, make him sound disgusting, like he was like a fetus or some stuff like that. He didn't look disgusting at all. The worst part of that scene is that he has gills, and you can see them opening and closing, and then there's like blood or whatever coming out of them, and that's maybe the most disgusting part. But other than that, he's a fucking goofball. Like, he's not, people were laughing when they first saw him. Like, that's not what you want when you're supposed to bring out like a terror. Like, the way they were advertising him as in the trailers was that he was like this, he was the biggest Godzilla ever. He looked really scary. Like, he had these tiny beady eyes, really weird skin, crazy ass teeth. Like, he was deformed looking. Like, that was the point. Like, he was supposed to be weird looking, but he wasn't. He was just like a doofus. He looked like a doofus. And so that's like the first time you see him. And then there's a point which I thought was kind of cool, but they never really explored in the rest of the film, was like literally he gets up on land, and in 5 minutes he's sort of evolved himself to have small hands, like little hands, not even like the ones that not even smaller than the ones that he has in final form. But he actually has hands now. He's standing upright. He's looking more like Godzilla. He lets out this roar that's like the 1954 Godzilla roar, and it's like, good, okay, fine, now we're getting somewhere. Now he's looking like he's supposed to look. And I thought that was a cool idea that, like, in my head when I saw that happen, I was just like, oh shit, like, he was like a sea creature before. He had gills and everything, now they're all gone. So he's like, in the span of like an hour, he's evolved to be a terrestrial animal. And he's like, so I was like, oh shit, there's gonna be a scene where like the tanks come or like the helicopters come and they start shooting at him, and yeah, he gets hurt, but he quickly evolves to the situation. He adapts, and eventually he gets, you know, basically unstoppable. Excuse me. But that didn't happen at all. So again, I get that. I'm gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a rant, but I'm gonna try and keep it as like segmented as possible, or like together as possible. He evolves into like this miniature version of himself, and he's okay. He's better. He's fine. He's nothing special. He's not a giant like turd like he was before, but you know, he's not as cool as he is in his final form. His final form, you see later, he goes back into the water after this, and he comes out, and there's this scene that I thought was really cool, where it's like, it's a far back scene, and there's like a peninsula, like sort of like where going out into the Tokyo Bay, and you see him, and he's huge. Like the peninsula is like a cliff, like that, and that's like his ankle. Like, and he's just walking towards to Tokyo, and that was like a good scene. Like, he's scary looking. Like, that was like a scary sort of like, oh god damn kind of scene, and he looks good. Like, I don't mind the look. I mean, they could give him bigger arms, but like, he's not fighting anything, so he didn't really need arms. I mean, it's kind of like the form of evolution. They're trying to be kind of grounded in the sense that, like, you know, the T-Rex's head, he got bigger. The T-Rex, I'm talking about dinosaurs now, his head got bigger, so he didn't need the arms. And so this is kind of the same thing. Godzilla is like, his legs are like, he does fucking power squats, and then, you know, his upper body gets smaller because he doesn't really need it anymore. And so, like, it's not like his head is that big either, but I'm just saying, like, we're trying to at least use some scientific form of evolution to like justify him having small T-Rex like arms. And you know, but he's at least decent looking. Like, I was happy with it. And he's like walking through, but then there was like, he first shows up and it's kind of cool. He's destroying stuff just because he's wading through. But then there was a shot that I saw that really bothered me and really kind of took me out. Was there's like this drive-by of this guy who's using like a handheld camera, probably an iPhone or whatever, and he's driving by Godzilla, and he's not like far away. Like, Godzilla is like 50 feet away from him, and they're driving by, and his giant foot comes down and goes poof, and the car doesn't even shake. Doesn't, like, if something, he's supposed to be like 300 and something meters tall or whatever. If something like that puts his foot down, that car is going to get blown away just from the force of his foot getting put down. At least vibrate the fucking car. Like, that took me out of the sense that he was this giant destructive force, because he didn't seem like he was actually doing anything that destructive. Like, yeah, he was stepping on houses, but it's like the same thing as like us stepping on ants. Like, he didn't care. Like, he didn't notice. It wasn't. And even then, the people didn't look like they were afraid. But yeah, so I mean, the people were afraid, but like it was nothing. It was nothing like I've seen in other monster movies. Like he's huge, and he's like he goes through the suburbs pretty much of like Tokyo, and he's walking in a straight line, and it's like behind him there's just like a straight path through buildings. He's not like his tail is always in the air. It's not like it's swinging down on the ground, shifting shit over. It's none of that. He's not, compared to other Godzillas in general, he's not destructive at all. Like, even the 2014 Godzilla was more destructive. Actually, he's probably just as destructive as the 1998 Godzilla. Like, I feel like that the second that car scene happened, I was just sitting there going like, that was a good opportunity to do something kind of cool too, where like he puts his foot down, the car gets blown off, and you see people die. You don't really see people die in Godzilla films. If you're trying to make it dark and somber, like especially nowadays, you're gonna have to hit you're gonna have to hit us on the nose a little bit, because like we're kind of desensitized to like violence in films these days. And so like there's a scene where he like crushes a building, and you see the family inside the building, but you don't see them die. You just see him lay down on the building. This is before he's huge. This is when he's like a chihuahua without front legs, and he comes down on the building. They're like packing like idiots. Like they've had like 4 hours to evacuate. They're packing, and he just comes down on the building. That she's still running around with the luggage, and all of a sudden all this debris comes down on them, and that's it. That's really the only time you see somebody die in this film. Like, I mean, you're left to assume that other people die, but he doesn't seem to be that destructive. But like he also walks super slow. Like there's points where it looks like he's standing still. He's walking really slow, and I understand that like if something is of that size, his movement is gonna be considered slower to us, like, or to our eyes, but still he was like barely moving. And there's a lot of shots of him, especially when he's in his final form, of him just walking, and it's like you can't, like, I don't know, like there wasn't this set, like again I'm gonna throw back to other Godzilla films. He has this sort of animalistic intelligence, especially in the 80s and 90s, that like this one doesn't have. This one just is like, I'm gonna go here, this way. Nothing's gonna get him out this way, and it's just like you're kind of stupid. Like, you know, like and I'm sure his facial expression doesn't make him seem intelligent either. Like his eyes are all beady and goofy and like, but yeah, his first appearance was very imposing, and then that quickly evaporated for me. And then there's the point where he uses his like atomic breath, which is actually really cool. Probably one of the few cool parts of the film. But before we get that, we got to talk about the part where he first meets the army in his final form. So he meets the army in his final form. They have this whole defensive position around him, and they are like across a river. And then the helicopters come in. They start shooting him with their chain guns. The bullets are like pew, 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 pouncing off him. He's bouncing off him. He's not even noticing. He's not even registering any of that stuff. Then they go up to the bigger cannons, and that's again, and like they have the sound effects. The sound effects are good. And then they go in for missiles, and the missiles hit him in the face, and it does something. Like he's like, oh, okay, all right, that kind of hurt. Like he comes out of the smoke of the missiles, and he's just like whatever. And so they meet him, and then they're like, oh, he's slowing down. Like he was moving slow in the first place, but now he's slowing down. So they start shooting him with the tanks in the legs, and then they start hitting him with the rockets in the face. They start doing this whole barrage thing, and it kind of slows him down, and it causes him to like kind of turn and kind of veer off course a little bit. But then and they're all kind of like, yeah, we're doing it, and then he's just like, nah, motherfuckers, nah, you're not. And he just like, the helicopters run out of ammo, so they leave. Then he continues to walk towards the tanks, and like again, as I was saying earlier, like he doesn't seem to even though he's getting hurt, he doesn't really register anything. It, again, doesn't like give him the sense of like any form of intelligence. He's just pure instinct, which in my opinion makes him less intimidating or less scary. Um, he's also like not. It doesn't need like because this is also the director who did Evangelion and also Attack on Titans. And Attack on Titans, I have a really hard time watching because yeah, the Titans are not. They're pure instinct, but they're driven to such a degree by their desire to feed that like it's disturbing. He does not have that desire at all. He doesn't seem to have any desire. He just seems to want to fucking walk. Like you don't even know what his purpose is. Like they kind of in the film allude that he's like, oh, he needs to eat radiation, but like it's not like he's heading. They're not talking about, oh my god, he's heading to like the biggest like nuclear reactor in the country. It's not like he doesn't have a purpose outside of just being there. And so he kind of like throws up, like kind of like crosses the water without a problem. Eventually the helicopters will go off, like I said. And then he just kind of goes, okay. And he kind of goes back to the way he was and he was walking. And then the U.S. decides to get in on this because supposedly they knew way ahead of time that Godzilla was coming on. And they kind of want to catch him and study him. But anyways, they come in with B-52 bombers, right? And carrying these big ass like bombs that are like one level below like nuclear, something like that. And they drop them on him, and they hit him, and he bleeds. Like they hit him, and he's down. Like he's like, "Aah!" And he goes down, and he's blood's gushing from his back. There's pieces of him going places, and you're like, oh God, like Jesus Christ, we hurt him. Like I mean, like this doesn't seem that hard at all. And then he does something that I thought was cool, which was his atomic breath thing. And so how it works is that like he gets hit, and so he kind of is still hunched over, but as he's hunched over, his spine starts to glow purple instead of blue. I don't care. It can glow pink for all I give a shit. But his whole spine starts to glow. His mouth opens really wide. He kind of gets this double hinged jaw thing, like how snakes get. Or like what's become kind of a trend in movies and video games with like horror stuff is like this part here splits into two, and this is still full. This is still whole. So he's like doing that, and all of a sudden this black smoke stuff comes out of his mouth, and it spreads really quickly throughout the city, and then it just something in his mouth clicks, and this fire just everything that was this black smoke just goes it catches on fire. Instantly, like it's incendiary, like it's insane, and it just sets everything on fire. But then all of a sudden, the fire starts to like tighten and get tighter and tighter and tighter until all of a sudden it becomes this really fine like laser beam, and it just like just like it's cutting through buildings. It's like he shoots it up. It also comes out of his back to stop the bombers because they're coming in for a second thing. It comes out of his back, like 12 of them come out of his back, and he just like is like with like his back hitting all of these the planes out of the sky, destroying everything, blowing up this giant section of Tokyo like in a second, and now he's back to being like this terrifying, intimidating creature because like he can just like open his mouth, this stuff comes out. Like I thought that was so cool that like it's just like it like billows out of his mouth, and then it catches fire, and that just spreads like a lake of fire. And then the fact that like it's again, I don't mind that they changed things if they work. Like it worked. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make it really thin beam, you can make it green, you can make it yellow, I don't care. But like they did enough where it was different but the same, and it was good enough. And it was good, like I'm saying, like his look too. Like you can change his look, but he ultimately looked good. Like I mean, so if the first time you see him, he looks like a dork. The second time you see him, the third time you see him, he looks awesome. So like I don't mind that they changed it, but as long as it works. And then so then he becomes, and then they have this really nice shot of him at night where they pull back and everything that he's destroyed, you actually see it from like a satellite up above, and you see just like Tokyo, just this burning yellow glowing thing, And it's just like, that was really cool. Like that was a good shot, good cinematography, and good action. I'm glad that Godzilla is like kind of being back to being a thing. But then they take it away from you like that second, in the sense that now he's walking, and then all of a sudden he goes like a robot. Like he's kind of got these red glowing bits on his body, and all of a sudden those all start going black. Like he's like, and he freezes, and like he's stuck. He's stuck like this for like 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. And while this is going on, all the humans are like, okay, we got to figure out a way to kill him. We know how a way to kill him. We're going to like freeze. He's like a nuclear reactor, so we're going to like cool him down to the point where he can't like create any more energy for himself, and he's going to die. And so like those 2 weeks, they're working on it, and like they keep doing shots of him just like, like he's not moving, like he's frozen. And then it gets to like the last day before he becomes active again. The United States wants to use a nuclear bomb to blow him up, sacrifice Japan, like World War II all over again kind of situation. And they get that pushed back, the deadline pushed back, so that way they can try the freezing thing. But while that's going on, while this like whole debate about getting the nuclear bomb pushed back happens, a piece of his tail like falls off, like comes off, or shifts, and that's it. And then all of a sudden, like, he kind of wakes up and he starts back up where he was. He's like, and he's like, and he starts walking and stuff like that. And then they come in and they're like, okay, we have to force him to use his beam again, and so that way he tires down, and then we can put in the freezing stuff in his mouth. And so what they do is then they come in with the bombers again. They come in, no, not bombers, with drones, because they don't want to kill people. Come in with drones. The drones drop the bombs. He's like starts firing off his lasers in his back, and then he like gets tired of that. So then he starts shooting out of his mouth and out of his tail, and then he gets tired of that, and then he's just like again. And then they come in with cranes, and they like basically like feed him this coolant stuff, like straws in his mouth, and he's like because his mouth is open. His mouth is open the whole movie. And so they like put it in, and I'm just like, this is how this is why I'm talking like ranting, because this is kind of really absurd. Like I'm just kind of like thinking about all the stuff I just said, and like it's really absurd. Like there was 2 points that I was like, that's cool. The rest of it is like really absurd. And so they start putting it in his mouth, and then he starts coming back to life again, and he breaks the cranes and he kills the people there. You don't see it. But like he starts coming back to life again, and so they're like, "Oh, we got to do phase 2." And that phase 2 is that like they like have like all these explosions on this train come and like hit him in the leg, like not like one train, like dozens of trains. They come and hit him and like kind of trip him up, and he falls down. And because he's so tired, he can't really get back up. And so again, they put the straws in his mouth. He starts drinking the coolant, and then he kind of comes back alive again. But then he comes up and he's roaring, and then all of a sudden he freezes. And he's done. He's dead. He's dead. I'm just going to say, quote, dead. Because he's frozen. They put a cooling coagulant or whatever in his body, and so he's just like, meh. And then there's this whole like celebration thing, and then at the end, the very last shot of the movie is of Godzilla's tail. And like I pointed it out in the trailer, and I saw it a couple times in the movie. He looks like he has like bones of something in his tail. And then they zoom in on his tail, and you see these humans climbing out, like kind of look like they're climbing to the top of his tail, but they all have his spines, like his dorsal fins, and they all have sharp teeth. And then the movie ends. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, in the next part that I'm going to talk about the dialogue of the film, which was a lot of dialogue, and sort of like more of the human aspect and less about Godzilla, because that's going to make this ending make even less sense. At least it makes less sense to me. So basically in the beginning of the film, the geyser comes up and everyone's trying to figure out what it is. A lot of the scientists are like, oh, it's a volcano. It's like kind of erupting. Oh, it's just a geyser in the bay. Oh, it's a leakage of something. Like, and then the main guy, I think his name is Yagachi, I think his name is in the film. He's just like, what if it's like a marine animal? And everyone looks at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, there's not even a blue whale is that big. Like, you can't think, there's nothing that big on this planet. And he's just like, I think it's a marine animal. And then lo and behold, he ends up being right because like Japanese CNN has a footage of like Godzilla's tail coming out of the bay, like, and they're all looking at him and like, what the hell? What makes you think it was a marine animal? And he's just like, because that's what I knew. I knew it was a marine animal. And like in the beginning, I didn't like Yagachi. He seems like kind of like a douche, like kind of like somebody who was there who just is part of politics to like climb the ladder. Overall, the acting, like I kind of want to get in on the acting a little bit. I mean, there's a couple guys in there who I'm pretty sure are like in past Godzilla movies, and so they're like, those are the only faces I recognize. So as far as acting is concerned, I thought they were pretty good. There was the American Japanese chick who I kind of got on my nerves a little bit. I didn't understand why, if she spoke perfect Japanese and she was supposed to speak perfect Japanese, why does she break in English randomly? When not everyone speaks English, and she doesn't speak English. Like, she speaks English very well, but she has a thick Japanese accent, or pretty thick Japanese accent, and that kind of takes it out. But overall, I thought acting wise, minus like the guy who played the prime minister in the beginning, everyone I thought acted fairly well. I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but I was pleasantly surprised with the acting quality. But anyways, back to sort of like stuff that I didn't like. That's what I liked about the dialogue and the acting, was that they did well. But there's a lot of holes and a lot of points that make no sense in this film. So the first, like I was saying earlier, the first one is that all of a sudden the main character knew that there was a marine animal in the bay. Okay, good for you. And then there's a lot of talking points and a lot of talking points. And another thing that I like about it, that's kind of the saving grace for the amount of dialogue, is that every time they're talking, the camera's making quick cuts. So like once somebody's done talking, the camera immediately cuts to the next person. So you get this sort of frantic movement going on a lot in these dialogue scenes, which brings up the pace because there is so much dialogue. Like, I can't emphasize enough how much dialogue there is. Like, a lot. And like, they're speaking quick. They're not like, there's no long pauses really. There's nothing. They're boom, 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 saying your thing. And it's like, you get 30 seconds of Godzilla, 15 minutes of dialogue. 30 seconds of Godzilla, 15 minutes of dialogue. 5 minutes of Godzilla, half an hour of dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot. And, you know, it is a lot. And you have to really pay attention, or you also have to have prior knowledge of some subjects before even seeing this movie, I find out, because, and also being not Japanese, you miss out a lot on the cultural stuff that, you know, makes them them. So there's a scene that like really kind of pissed me off, where the original prime minister dies. When Godzilla shoots his radioactive beam, it comes across, hits his helicopter, he dies. Another one gets reelected, and there's a point where like they're like, okay, he's asleep. We you know, from the way that his body core temperature is going, it looks like he's going to be out for about 2 weeks. And he's like, we want to kind of pursue this avenue of trying to kill him. And he's like, oh, okay. And then they leave, and he looks down, and he's got like ramen or something, or udon noodles or something like that. And he looks at it and he goes, the noodles are soggy. And I'm just like, dude, you have a giant ass fucking animal, like, who just blew up your whole fucking city, and you're bitching about your goddamn soggy noodles. Like, I guess because I'm not Japanese, I don't get that. And that's also another thing about the dialogue I didn't like. This movie is supposed to be kind of dark and somber. Like, it's supposed to be like the 1954 movie. It's kind of making a statement about nuclear energy and how poorly governments are, especially Japan, are equipped to handle natural disasters. And I understand it, like, in some movies that, like, to breaking up the tension makes sense. But you don't need to be kind of pretentious about it. Like, the guy who's like, oh, my noodles are soggy. Or the original prime minister, they made him into such a clown, like a character. Like, he always was like he, again, maybe that was overacting, but like it took you out of the like the dread of what you know, if whenever there was dread of what Godzilla could do. And it just like, it is what it is. But then and then they figure out that like he's he's made of nuclear energy and all this stuff, and so what was I gonna say? Now I'm like brain farting. Oh yeah, so they somehow, well no, so on the boat in the beginning, like I said, they find documents that the guy who used to own the boat, who you assumed killed himself because he's not on the boat anymore, he had documents because he knew Godzilla was coming, and he was kind of studying Godzilla because he hated nuclear energy, and he knew that this was going to be sort of like a consequence of the nuclear age. And so he left them documents kind of giving Godzilla's molecular structure and stuff like that. And none of the scientists can understand it because it's in this like really broad diagram. And all of a sudden, one of the like underlings of the guys goes like, "Oh, maybe it needs to be folded." And like you're like, and everyone kind of brushes him off, like, "Yeah, whatever, dude. Like, sure, it needs to be folded." And then one of the lead scientists goes, "Origami," and like all of a sudden they like start folding it into origami, but they're not folding it into one piece of origami. Like it's not like they're folding it into the crane or the frog or whatever. They're changing the origami as they're talking about, "Oh, this is what this is supposed to do. This is so like." And then, unless you got like an advanced degree in like biochemistry, you're not gonna understand half the shit that they're saying in this scene, because it's like, "Oh, his A23 atoms are connecting with this blah 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 blah," and it's like over your head. And so, like at that point in the movie, I kind of glazed, my eyes went heavy, and I was just like, "Yeah, okay, that scene's over." They didn't really explain anything in great detail. It's not like there's like an epiphany that like, "Oh my god, he's all of a sudden like, oh, we know we can do this because he's got this kind of molecular structure," or something like that. None of that happened. It's very much like just happened. The circumstantial. It's all very circumstantial. And another part is that like they don't just talk about where he came from. Now they know where his like molecular makeup, but they don't talk about what he is or where he came from. You're kind of just sort of like given a photograph of like nuclear waste barrels that have bite marks on them, and you don't know what he originally was. So obviously he was something that like ate nuclear waste. So I'm assuming he was like anti-nuclear bacteria at one point that like mutated and became a giant organism. That's what I'm assuming as the film. I mean, if you saw the film, let me know if I'm right or wrong in the comment section below, because like I'm really kind of confused about what his origin is. And yeah, that's that part. And like, like I'm like working up a sweat about ranting about this film. So yeah, to not shoot a horse in the mouth, not to shoot a dead horse, whatever that saying is. I didn't really like the movie. I hated it when I got out of the theaters. There was a lot I thought was wrong with it, a lot that didn't get explained, that needed to be explained. This Godzilla did not seem like he was a strong Godzilla. Like, if this Godzilla went up against the 2014 Godzilla, 2014 would just demolish this guy. Because if the 2014 Godzilla like survived or dodged or whatever, and his beam, the Shin Godzilla's beam, 2014 Godzilla would have had 2 weeks to go to town on this fool. And like there's not really actually that much of a difference in height. I think the Shin Godzilla is like 10 meters taller than the 2014 Godzilla. I think. I could be wrong, but I know there's not that much of a difference in height. And I think overall, if I'm completely honest with myself, the 2014 Godzilla was a better film. It was more of a Godzilla film than what this one was. And it really kind of hurts my soul a little bit, because I was really excited for this. You could have checked out if you saw my Reacts trailer, I might link it in the description or somewhere around here. I was really excited for this film, and I left that film. Maybe that's my own fault because I had really high expectations. But I left really disappointed. Really disappointed. I'm glad that it's being successful, but I hope that Toho decides to make something better in the future and doesn't actually go with this Godzilla and go with this universe, because what can they do? I mean, the only thing I can think of is like the tail at the end with the people. Like maybe he like there was pieces of him they found throughout the city, and they were using that to study like weaknesses and stuff. So maybe like that morphs into like another Godzilla, I guess. But I hope they kind of don't pursue this universe that much. But yeah, so like final thoughts, I already said them, but like I'm gonna say them again. Disappointed in this movie. Not as good. If you want like a ranking, in my opinion, on what this movie in my like list of Godzilla movies, I don't have it in front of me, but like this would be towards the bottom of my list. If you want like a movie comparison, I would really compare it to Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Godzilla, like in both movies, there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of people action, not a lot of Godzilla. The last 5 minutes of the film were kind of action packed, but like you wasted like an hour and 45 minutes, hour 15 minutes to get to that point, and you don't feel satisfied. So like that's would be my biggest comparison to another Godzilla movie, would be like Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Yeah, and then like this Godzilla didn't seem like a Godzilla. Like Shin Godzilla, like Shin is supposed to mean like God again, so it's like he's God Godzilla, like, but he's not, because he's just as weak as like 1998 Godzilla almost. Like I don't know. Like again, I'm disappointed in this movie. If you're a Godzilla fan, go see it. Go make your own decisions. This is my opinion. I'm just trying to make you guys informed consumers. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this video's got the movie's got like an 82 or something like that in the 80s on Rotten Tomato. People are liking it, so I'm probably a minority in this. But as a Godzilla fan, I was very disappointed. I know for a fact, as a non-Godzilla fan, my girlfriend fell asleep and hated this film. So make an intelligent choice, make an informed choice. You know, watch a couple reviews, read a couple reviews on Rotten Tomato, on IMDb, see a couple YouTubers. You know, make an informed decision. You got like a little bit more time to see this movie while it's in theaters. So if you're a Godzilla fan, go see it. Make your own choice. If you're not a Godzilla fan, become informed. See what other people say. That's all I can say. I know I ranted for a lot. This video is going to be long. I'll try and cut it down a little bit, but God, it hurt my soul. I left that movie and I just wanted to go to sleep. I was hoping it was a dream. I hope it wasn't real. But whatever. It's doing well, so hopefully Toho does another one that's better. That's all I can say. And I got Godzilla, American Godzilla 2, and like King Kong and all, and Pacific Rim 2 and stuff like that to look forward to from over here. So that's my review on Shin Godzilla, or as it's known here in the United States, Godzilla Resurgence. Thank you so much for sitting through this. If you guys want to take part in the discussion, have any points that I might have missed, or if you actually enjoyed the movie, let me know why in the comment section below. If you didn't, I'm happy to sit there and talk to you about that as well. Like, I want to have a discussion about this movie. I want to talk to other Godzilla fans, see what they think about this movie, or non-Godzilla fans. I just want to know. I'm curious because I have my opinion and I want to know everybody else's. So thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have anybody in mind who might enjoy my videos, please feel free to share it with them. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. And if you don't ever want to miss another review, Let's Play, or Talking Nerdy episode, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. Click it. Click it. Thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome with doing that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Hearts. Hearts. But yeah, have a good rest of your day. I'm Seb the Enthusiast. As always, stay enthusiastic, my friends. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.